For those with good taste.
So I'd like to start with Twisters, if that's okay. That's
Yeah.
fresh in the mind. We both saw it yesterday. Caught a couple early viewings. Gripe number one for me. I learned a lesson yesterday.
What?
So you remember before we saw Fall Guy, which was also an early screening? Like
Yeah.
before the movie, there was like a 5 or 10 minute
it's like a behind the scenes, like
the director and the cast talking about it. Yeah. So like it was cool. Like it gave you a little bit of backstory, a little bit of information, but it wasn't like too much, right? Like it was just like something to add a little bit to the movie, and I kind of like that. It was like good. I think especially for doing this, it's good to kind of get like a little bit more of the insight into like what they were thinking about when they were making it.
Yeah.
So the ticket that I got for Twisters was a Q&A.
Oh yeah, I did see that. Yeah.
Yeah, it was the IMAX Q&A. You by the way, you're so fucking dumb, dude. I love you, and I'm trying to be nice right now, but like you're so fucking dumb, dude. You pissed me off.
What for going to Dolby?
Well, no, being like,
the IMAX.
I saw that, brother. You're on a text thread, and we had this conversation. Like, and
I don't think I bought the tickets then.
But you the exact thing you texted me, like we had gone through this together. And like we had all decided we're just gonna see IMAX, and like it's like, oh yeah, I'd seen they had done that, motherfucker. You didn't just see they had done that. We discussed it, like we talked about it.
How many times do we have to attack my memory? All right,
it's so irritating, dude. It's so irritating,
dude. I got juvenile onset dementia. Like, leave me alone. But I just don't like IMAX at South Bay, mostly because of the seats.
They're fine, dude. But whatever, it's your preference. You're just annoying, dude. So anywho,
I just don't like IMAX at South Bay, mostly because of the seats, though.
That's your preference, and I'm not gonna just be outwardly mean for the sake of being mean, even if I think you're an idiot and like that's
no. Go ahead, stupid, be mean, because now I'm curious. What's on your mind?
No, I just said it. You're fine.
No, yeah, talk your shit.
Yeah, no, it's cool. Like you're just annoying. So we go and we see IMAX Q&A. The movie starts at 8, right?
Yeah.
They play trailers before 8 o'clock. Like they were playing trailers in the lead up to the 8 o'clock time period. At 8 o'clock, a big thing pops up on the screen, and it's like a picture of the cast with like the stormy background with a QR code that's like, send us your questions. And I was like, okay, like they're going to be disappointed because there's only like 9 people in this theater if they're doing a Q&A for just us. And it didn't really,
no way.
It was like really, it didn't click to me. And then a countdown starts happening. So yeah, like after about 5 minutes, a timer pops up and it's like 2 minutes till the Q&A. And you start hearing like applause. It's still a still frame on the screen, but you start hearing applause and people like murmuring over the speakers. And it then clicks to me, this is a Q&A, like they're running a Q&A in all the IMAXs across America that are showing this. And it's being live broadcast to all of the theaters.
That's sick.
Kind of. We'll get there. In premise,
concept.
In premise, it is cool. However, in execution, the Q&A was 40 minutes long.
No.
Yes. That's not an exaggeration either, people. Like, that's the Scout's honor truth, dude.
You did select the Q&A showing. Did it show a longer runtime when you selected that?
I don't think so. I just didn't even look at that. Because again, going back to my original point, when we saw Fall Guy, they had done like a little preamble before the movie. So in my head, I was like 10 minutes, 15 minutes.
And usually when we catch these early access screenings where they're doing like the thing like you talk about with Fall Guy, they start early. There's less previews. Usually you have like 25 minutes after the time that it says for the movie to actually start. With the early screenings, they're usually 15 minutes. So for you to go 40 minutes in and the movie hasn't started, that's crazy.
Yeah. So I texted you 15 minutes into the movie like the runtime that the movie, like
Yeah.
the 8 o'clock. Like I texted you at 8:15. You texted me back like 30 minutes after that, and that's when the movie had just started. And like it wasn't a good enough Q&A.
Yeah.
Like there was some interesting stuff about like the director of the movie had grown up in like on a farm, not in Oklahoma, but like in a neighboring state,
Mm.
and like had been around like tornadoes when he was younger and like stuff like that. So he had a good backstory for why he was directing like this, why he was a good choice for directing this movie. Like that was interesting. I wouldn't have known that. But then like some of the setups that they gave you for the movie, because they're talking about stuff and they're describing the movie as like Fast and Furious because of like the music, like how it meets like with the movie, and like the pace of it and some of the action sequences, and like just giving you some like hype to it that I just don't think like lived up once you they referenced the last scene and like how intense it was to shoot,
Mm.
because of like the effects that they were using, like a lot of the practical stuff that they were doing, that it was just a lot to shoot it.
Yeah.
And so you go in and you're like expecting like some like in obviously with the Twister movie, you're also just expecting some like larger than life stuff that I don't know if it completely got there for me after what I was seeing prior to going like the movie starting. But so 40 minutes in, finally a 2 hour long movie starts. So now we can get to the movie review. But that was my pre-movie experience. I will not be doing any more that's a Q&A on them. That's learning experience for me. I know better.
I might do it once just for the experience.
Okay,
Maybe mine goes better.
You can complain about it too. Let's talk about the movie though.
Yeah.
So I liked, particularly I want to start here. One thing they did talk about in the Q&A, they talked about how they used film for a decent amount, like real film for a decent amount of this movie. And they said how it made it difficult on some of the like more intense scenes because you have a limited amount of shots that you can take, right? Like you like with film, it's not unlimited that you just keep going and going, try and get it right. Like they were trying to get things in like a couple of takes, basically. So it put more pressure on getting it right the first time. Did you notice that it was filmed on both film and digital watching it?
No.
Because knowing that, I found it very obvious that it was.
I mean, it's not something I was looking for, so no, I didn't notice.
There's a lot of scenes, like the scene where they're eating on the top of the truck, about halfway, 2/3 of the way through the movie. They go out it's just Kate and what's Glenn's name?
Tyler.
Tyler. It's just the two of them when they go like storm chasing, just the two of them for the first time.
Okay, yeah.
They stop and he's like, "Do you want to eat lunch?" And they eat on top of the truck. Like there's a far away shot that's like incredibly grainy to the point where it's like you can't, like it's grainy on them, like on the top of the truck, like in the distant shot. But then when you get up close, it's like in very good resolution. There's just a lot of shots that you can tell were very grainy for like in for the sake of them using film. And I appreciated the technique because to me, I think that they were trying to still give you a little bit of that tie to the 90s movie, and
Yeah.
like give you a little bit still of that feel of like a more authentic sequel that's tied in by having these shots filmed on film. So I appreciated that they went to that length, while still having some super clean shots with some really nice visuals, I thought, in digital to go with it, right? So that's a thumbs up for me. Like I thought the production value on the movie, there was no bad CGI. I thought like
No, it
visuals were
looked
all
great.
super like super nice. Obviously, like audio and feel were all there. I think for this movie, like they did a very strong job with that stuff. Glenn Powell again, just like Dave's not here, so we can just talk hella shit. Like,
Bro,
this guy's got it wrong, dude. Like,
yeah.
This guy's got it wrong because
It's funny too because I like started out the movie with like, damn, they're making him really easy to hate. Dave would have loved this movie.
Yeah, and I guess the only small gripe I'll give you on that is like I felt like the switch was flipped a little fast on when he became likable. Like like they're two polar opposite people if you watch the first half of the movie into the second half of the movie. And I don't know if aside from him like being attracted to Kate, that there was this huge character arc that got him to
Yeah, because
likable.
like there was the realization, but there was also a huge change in his character, which kind of killed it.
Like, yeah, he went from being like the YouTube guy to not really like the YouTube stuff wasn't the focus. And the like all of a sudden they're handing out stuff like to the people affected by it, which it makes sense. Like, I don't mean to say
Yeah.
it didn't make sense in the
Are we
way that
getting
they
into
had
spoilers
framed it.
now?
No, I don't think this is like a spoiler thing
Okay.
necessarily, right? Like, I think at the end of the day, we all know who the love interests were going to be in this movie, right? So like,
Yeah.
I don't foresee that being a spoiler. Nor like again, like can you? We'll wait to give any like real spoilers. But I don't know if I could spoil a movie called Twisters. Like, you fucking know what you're getting here, people.
Yeah.
You know, like I think you kind of get it. So I just thought like his arc kind of flips a little bit quickly. But I think just one thing, I was talking to Tom, who I saw the movie with prior to it, who also did say that he talked to you on Sunday about seeing this movie and that like you had talked about this. I just want to say that.
Yeah, I confirmed I was going to see it on Thursday. I just
You're a fucking asshole.
didn't confirm which showing, but whatever.
Yeah. All right, cool. Right. But I told him like, oh, like, yeah, Dave doesn't like Glenn Powell, and it doesn't make sense to me because like he seems like a very genuine guy. If you watch him just like on interviews, you see him in a movie, he comes off as just like a very authentic, charming dude who's funny, doesn't seem like he takes himself too seriously, but at the same time is obviously probably pretty confident in like, I am a funny guy and I'm fucking attractive. So like deal with it, you know? And like they were on Hot Ones this week, Daisy and Glenn, and like they did like the Hot Ones game show where they eat against each other and ask each other questions. And
Yeah.
like they both came off incredibly likable again. And I was like, every time I see this dude do an interview, I'm like, I really like him. And I think that comes through in the movies too. Like when you see him, you're like, I like this guy. He's being a douchebag at the beginning, and he fits this role very well too. Like a cocky, arrogant, dickhead YouTube guy fits it.
Yeah.
The guy he kind of turns into throughout the movie, I'm like, oh, like he is likable too. I forgot, you know?
Yeah, I don't know if they were going for like a perspective shift where it's like, oh, he was always this guy, you just didn't see him the right way, but
Yeah, maybe that's something you pick up on a rewatch.
yeah.
But like he was definitely intentionally playing a character in the beginning of, you know.
Yeah.
And let's get on to the person that I've been ranting and raving about for months upon months,
Got her name right.
Daisy Edgar Jones.
There you go. Is this her first big thing since Normal People?
Like I guess major, like this is her kind of foray for the first time, I think, into like a blockbuster level movie. She's
Mm.
done other like other things, but this is, I believe, her first like action role, like all of that. And for one, I thought she was fantastic. Like I thought she was
Yeah.
really good throughout this whole movie. I think her character had the most like weight to carry in this movie from like a depth standpoint, because you know what she's dealing with throughout the movie. And I think she carries that all very well. um I might have to go on a limb here, and there's two people that I think won this year for me so far for female actresses,
Okay.
and they're two very different individuals, because we got Sydney Sweeney, right? Like,
Yeah.
you know. You know.
Okay.
um
And then Daisy?
I've been on like the Daisy train for a while now, and this just further enforced my like, I'm in love with this woman.
So if they get their break by showing their tits on screen, then you're all for it.
This might be a commonality. Now that I think about it, that math might compute.
That math's mathin'.
Yeah. No, but I think like there is something like, and it goes back to Normal People with her, where I think she like that movie, I think, or that TV show rather, is so much not about like glitz and glamour or anything. It's just a lot of just watching how like regular people would handle like a relationship and seeing it progress over the years, and like there's nothing like that's it's a TV show, so it's like hard to explain, but like it's not it's real. It feels real to a point. Like their relationship feels like a real relationship would, and I think that that part of that is her and Paul Mescal in that show just being able to carry that the way that they
Mm.
did. And I think again in this, she humanizes the role that she's in very much so, and I think that that's what like makes it so good for me. But at the same time, like I think she lived up for this being such a major movie that like the two of them carried the weight of what this movie had to be. And I think if they had have failed, this movie is not as good as I think it ends up turning out.
Yeah. Um, I'll agree with you there. Like she was definitely great in this movie and definitely a very high point of the movie.
Because like so this is the last one, because I kind of just bullet pointed stuff because I saw this yesterday, but then we have other movies to talk about that I saw a week ago, and like I want to stay kind of concise on this because we have so many movies to talk about. So my last kind of point on this is that the movie, I think I left this movie feeling like it was a touch too long, but I think part of that is that a 40-minute build up to the movie starting, and
That
then all of a
might be a
sudden it's
major part of it because it never felt too long or dragged out to me. It
yeah,
felt very well paced.
like I was in the theater for over 3 hours.
Yeah.
Like bear that in mind.
I
So
think
like
getting out later too kind of makes it hit a little harder because you probably got out at what, like 10:30?
yeah, because I left, like we hung out and talked like we normally do. So I left South Bay at 11:30 last
Gotcha.
night.
Yeah.
So like and I just when I got home, I was like, dude, I left my house at about 6:10, and I got home at midnight. Like I was from 6 to midnight.
Yeah, that would definitely add to the sting.
And I don't mean to say like I like disliked it because it felt long, but I think that the thing that they focused on doing with this movie is it's 50% like the storms and the action and the twister stuff, and then it's 50% like story, you know,
Yeah.
backstory on your characters, emotional stuff that they're going with, um, like some of the background for like some of your other characters. Like I just think that there was like here's the bulk of the movie that they gave you, and I think that that was a good move because you had two actors that could handle the load of being likable enough and like having a natural charisma that for the parts that wasn't a twister, they carried the weight enough to make this an overall like enjoyable viewing experience. But I just think that like funny enough, there were two people who left this movie.
What?
Yeah, they got up and left like before the last act.
I can't imagine this being a movie you walk out of. They must have had like an emergency or something.
No, they definitely didn't. I think it just goes back to what I said though. Like at that point when they're walking out, we've already been in here for 2.5 hours. And if you're not feeling it and it's 9:45 and you're like, dude, I like, or like, well, I guess at this point it's probably 10:15. You're like, all right, I'm like, we're good, whatever. So like, I don't, that's just me assuming they could have something going on. Like they could have wanted, like they were on a date and like they had a little four and now they were trying to play. you know, um, for all I know. There were also the people
Look,
who like, the people in the movie theater who use like the charging port on the wall by like the exit door or something like that.
they were just standing over there charging during the
No,
movie.
but like the first thing they did when they walked in was found the charger on the wall and like left their phone down on the charger there. Like they were those kind of people.
Weird move.
I've seen it happen way too often. It's normally like teenagers that do it,
Yeah.
but like these were grown adults that did it. They came in dancing to some country music that was playing though, so like they were vibing when they first walked in.
Must have been a
Um,
good date.
yeah. Um, but yeah, maybe like it felt. I think that like for some people, if the parts that aren't the twister stuff doesn't land for you, I think that that's where this could feel a touch long
Hmm.
because it is a little over 2 hours.
How did you feel overall about the movie as far as its succession to the original?
I
Like, do you
thought.
think it was a good homage to the original?
Have you
Because
seen
it's
the
definitely not
original?
a.
Have you watched it?
Yeah, I watched it recently.
Okay, so I appreciated that there were little nods to the original. Like
Yeah,
the go like at the very beginning, like they when they were like, oh,
Dorothy.
like your mom, like your yes, there's that, like your mom invited us to go go eat dinner there. Like that was a thing when they all had
Yeah,
like a group dinner in the first movie, right? Like there was like these little nods and homages to the first movie that I appreciated. I thought that I want to save some of my thoughts on some stuff for this for spoilers. I thought overall, yeah, like I was satisfied with 30 years later. The idea of how technology has changed and like tornado chasing has changed and how the internet, like that's the stuff that I thought was cool with Glenn Powell's character.
yeah.
Is like, okay, if we were gonna have characters that were interested in storm chasing in the modern era, one of them would definitely be somebody who is becoming internet famous, right? Like, and I
Yeah.
appreciated that as like a character arc because I think that that's realistic to how things would happen. I'm sure we don't know this, but if we looked it up, there is probably a YouTube channel that's got 1 million subscribers that is dedicated to storm chasing, right?
Most likely,
There
yeah.
could be a couple, like for all I know, it's
Yeah.
just not an algorithm that I'm in or interested in. So like I thought that that was a cool thing. I thought like the technology that they were using to track, like while they carried over like some stuff from the original movie, like they advanced it with this. So yeah, I think overall I was satisfied with how it tied into the original. I thought they never referenced the original movie.
No, and I'm okay with that. Like
Yeah,
this is more of a remake than a sequel. So it's like a modernization of the original movie.
I think that's
Um
accurate. Yeah.
and like they definitely like nodded to like some of like the nostalgia, I guess you call it, from the original movie, but they didn't overdo it. And they still allowed this to be its own movie, so I was very happy with that.
I kept waiting to find out that Helen Hunt was the mom. Like that was my thing when she was going to the house and you were going to see her pop up from like the dark shadow in the
Well, we
corner of
knew
the
we didn't have
kitchen.
any of the original cast in this.
Yeah, no, I knew that, but I still had this thing in the back of my head where I was like, are they going to do it? Like,
Yeah. Like,
like this is
please.
why she started storm chasing in the first place is because like she grew up in a household that
Yeah.
like she's trying to live up to something, and I'm glad to your point that they didn't do that. Like
Yeah.
they didn't like slam it in your face like here's nostalgia, you know.
They didn't need to borrow too much from the original movie to make this a good movie.
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, I think again, this is a movie. It's a blockbuster. It's like a popcorn film. I would generally call it. I don't think it like it's not the best movie I've seen this year. Just like coming like being transparent on that. But I think it's a movie theater film. Like I think it's something to see in your Dolbys, to see in your IMAXs, to get that experience. I think it's 100% worthwhile of that type of experience. So for that, like I recommend seeing it.
No.
Okay, 3, 2, 1. Spoiler. So some of the letdowns for me.
Okay.
Um, I thought there wasn't enough diversity in the action, and I think that that also might have contributed to feeling a little long at some points. Is that like there wasn't a lot of difference in the way that they approached like the tornadoes to me.
Yeah.
And then like I had said previously, like prior to the movie, they built up this expectation for the last storm, for the last twister, and how that scene was like gigantic and everything. And even like the name, I don't know if the name misled you at all by calling it twisters. I thought in my head that there was going to be this like
Yeah.
multiple twisters, like all of a sudden they were going to be dealing with like three of them converging or
So
something.
I thought that, especially because in the trailer you have the scene where they're like, "Oh, we got twins," and I was
And
like, "Oh
they do
shit, they're
that in
just
the
gonna have a
movie,
bunch of
but
like
yeah,
No, they did do that,
yeah.
but I thought that was the theme of the movie. I thought it was just gonna be a bunch of multiplying tornadoes and like,
And I guess like they kind of explain in a way like they kind of explain this without explaining it. Like scientifically that wouldn't work because they were talking about remember like the scene where it was like go left or right, there's two different the twin scene. And it's like
yeah,
which one do we go after? And it's like well that one's going to get snuffed out because they're eating away from each other's resources and like this is the one to go to. So they kind of explained why that wouldn't have been like right for the plot that seemed to neither one of us are meteorologist or it could begin to tell you whether or not this is accurate to how
their explanation made sense, and I'm happy with it.
Yeah, exactly, right?
Yeah.
Like, so I think that they paid enough attention to detail that it was like that wouldn't work. But by calling it twisters as opposed to, because like there was multiple twisters in the first original Twister movie, right? Like
Yeah.
by calling it twisters, I think in my head it inferred that there would be this thing where like we're dealing with like you said, like massive twist, like multiple happening.
Honestly, I think I would have liked it less if it was that, though.
If it was like cartoonish in that regard.
It would have felt like ridiculous. Like it would have felt like
Yeah.
a Netflix B movie kind of
But
thing.
then
you know what I
again,
mean?
when you call something like Fast and the Furious, like I tend to think ridiculous. You know?
Yeah.
So like that, I think there a lot of the like each one felt pretty intense, but I thought the first Twister was great, right? The E5 that they deal with in the very beginning of the movie. And the last one was good, but I felt like the last one it kind of just like abruptly ended to me. Like I wanted more from it.
You wanted more destruction.
Yeah, I wanted more adversity. Like
Okay, yeah.
realistically, they see it's happening, they get to the town, they quickly try to get people inside. Glenn Powell has the little issue or little but like the thing falls on his leg, right? And like they have to
Which
save
I didn't like that thing fell on his leg and he was immediately running fine. He didn't start limping until later.
I think she had to like help him. They had to help him walk
They helped him, but initially, but then he started like running around when he was like hurting people and stuff, and he was running fine.
adrenaline,
And then
I
like
guess,
later, he's like limping. Yeah, sure, whatever.
I'm not gonna like overly gripe with that, but then realistically, like I just think I would have liked a couple more like scenes throughout the town where they're dealing with like the destruction and like avoiding things and like
I guess if
instead
they
they're
shot this practically though, like it makes sense why they couldn't do that much. Maybe.
yeah, because then yeah, it's just like it all just takes place with them in the like it's just very quick. Like they go from it's really like that last tornado is only like 10 minutes of the movie, right? Like
Yeah,
it's fairly fast, and I just like I just felt like there was more meat on the bone, so to speak. Like there was more that I thought they could have done.
and I think it felt quicker because it mostly happened in one setting.
Yeah, and all this buildup, like you had gone through a lot of dialogue and everything, and it's just like I think they had already telegraphed the finish at that point, right? So
Yeah.
you knew how the movie was going to end.
You knew how they were going to survive it. Yeah.
Yeah, like so I just thought like maybe a little bit more to get to that point would have been nice, you know. Um but yeah, I just thought like there wasn't a ton of diversity in the storms themselves. Like, and I thought the first and the last were the ones that stood out the most out of any of them. Um, and well, I take that back because I also thought the swimming pool scene was very good. I thought the
Yeah.
rodeo actually might have been the best tornado scene out of any of them because you're getting
Yeah.
the car gets swept up into it. You have the person getting swept up. Like I thought, like maybe that was the
The one
best
thing I
tornado
did
scene.
love about that last tornado was when it ripped through the power plant.
Yeah, okay, that was really cool. The fire and everything.
That gave me like a great experience with the audio. You know,
Yeah.
that was where I was like, okay, this is why you watch it in Dolby
Well, but
or
also
IMAX
that
for your
scene
taste.
was where I was like, "Oh, is this where it mutates? Like, is this where I get like the multiple?"
Oh, you were still waiting for multiples.
Yeah, I was like, is this where we're gonna get this? Like,
No,
and I guess it did empower it, like to
yeah.
a point.
I just like the
Because
big old fiery tornado. That was
because
cool.
in my head they were like, well, we need to make it rain so that we can do all this other stuff. So I was like, well, fire must make this thing like a fucking beast. Like it must turn into a fucking blue eyes white dragon right now.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah, it's unstoppable.
like it's got the three heads, you know. It's gonna go fucking off. So yeah, I thought that was the one thing for me. Um, and some of the dialogue scenes, like while I appreciated them and the acting what carried them through, I thought it did make the pacing feel a little bit slowed down at times. And I feel like that's why the people left is like they didn't leave during a tornado scene, right? They left during like the dialogue scenes.
Yeah.
Like I think they left while they were at the barn, you know,
Okay.
kind of going through some of that stuff. So um Yeah, but truthfully, I don't have very much to gripe with the movie. Like I liked it overall. Um, I thought like her friend, the only, so let's talk about the beginning actually really quick, because I
Yeah,
do think that adds up to like why Daisy's performance is as good as it is I immediately knew what was going to happen, like as soon as I saw the group of friends, especially seeing the Q&A, and like the four people featured in the Q&A were the director, Glenn Powell, Daisy Edgar Jones, and then the friend, like the other dude who was in the original group in the beginning,
yeah.
who's the, I don't know his real,
Javi.
is that his
He
name in
was
the movie?
Javi in the movie. Yeah,
He's from Transformers, the last Transformers movie as well. He played the
yeah,
lead, so he's really good. I like him.
yeah,
But like they had kind of telegraphed it for me, where I'm like, oh, they're giving like this guy, like they're the only two that are gonna live through the beginning of this movie. But I liked that setup, and I liked though, like also that he was like, we're the only ones that survived this, and I'm like, well, brother, you never actually were in it. Like, like, like you had front row seats to it, but it was going
yeah.
the
There was no
opposite
survival
direction.
risk for you. Yeah.
Yeah, like she was the one who actually like watched all of them. Like he came off like a real dickhead in that scene where he had like he said that shit to her
Oh yeah,
about
yeah,
like chasing the money while like our friends were dying kind of stuff. Like when it's like, yeah, that's somewhat true, but she like you're misframing, like she wasn't chasing money for personal gain. She was trying to get a grant to be able to better stuff for her like home area that suffers from this every single year. So you're like you're making her look selfish when like you are all supposed to be committed to the same path,
yeah.
of like bettering stuff. And that's kind of her point back to you. But yeah, I thought it was disingenuous to like his framing up of like we both almost died from this, and like we both lost people, when I'm like, you did both lose people, but she was the only one who actually almost died.
Died.
Like
Yeah,
she was in the heart of a fucking thing, and she had to be the one to live through it. But I thought that storm was pretty great. Like I thought the them having to run away from it, like trying to get up that wall. Sabrina the Teenage Witch there was like, I can't crawl. That's
yeah,
who she is, right?
yeah.
Yeah. I immediately was
Kiernan
like,
Shipka, right?
yeah, I was like, damn, you're not gonna live, Sabrina. uh, yeah, like, and then the boyfriend, which I like the tie in the pool scene, where she's still trying to like get back on her horse a little bit with like the whole idea of like storm chasing and like getting back into it, and all of a sudden she's in the pool and like Tyler's behind her and holding her, and she's like, I liked how it blacked out behind her, and it's really just in her own head of like, oh, I'm here, like this is the same thing that already happened, like he's behind me telling me to hold on, and that he's got me and all of this stuff, and that's literally how my like boyfriend died 5 years
Yeah.
ago. I liked all of that. But yeah, I thought the first storm, like, so they didn't really explain this, but I was like, they were like, yeah, we got it wrong. It was we thought it was an E1, but it was an E5, and I was like, I thought they were gonna say that they were the ones who made it E5 by like launching that shit up into it.
No.
No, like I just thought in the very beginning of the movie, I was like, oh, like that's their fault that it went like, because it increased immediately as soon as they launched that stuff into
Yeah, true. But I think that's just it happened immediately after because they miscalculated what it was going to become.
it.
Because
Yeah,
throughout the movie, they tell you how quickly these can like change and either grow or like die out.
yeah, yeah. But because of like the beginning of the movie, and I thought that was a really strong way to start it. I thought you were immediately invested into her character. Uh, but like, I don't know. There's definitely these people in Oklahoma, I'm sure, like that real estate guy that's just like profiting off of people's like
Oh, 100%.
problems. But I don't know if I like loved that character change for him. But I get it, where it's like I need to make something of myself, and like I want to make money.
I mean, the other thing, right, is like when she first sees him again, like after all those years, and he talks about like, hey, I was in the military, they got this like radar and they made it portable, and now I started a company with it. If this was like top secret military tech, like how is he able to just take it and start his own company with it?
Yeah, like he didn't buy the patent, right? They never really
Yeah.
explained like how he had so many of them, because he like
No,
just
no. He
like
was just like,
loses one, like
yeah, he was just like, oh yeah, I was in the military, I was working with these, and they made a portable one, and yeah, now I got some. It's like what the
yeah.
fuck?
But like that's where I thought it was going to be more of a joint venture with like the military that they were working, not like this private thing
Yeah.
where he's getting
At
paid
first,
a
I
ton
thought
of
they were
money.
contracted by the military, but then once they switched to the real estate thing, I was like, oh, he's definitely just doing this on his own.
So you know his like partner, the
Yeah.
dickhead guy. One thing that they tipped, I didn't realize who he was, but during the Q&A they talked about this. That's the guy who's going to play the new Superman.
Oh, okay.
Is that dude? And spoiler alert for the Superman fans out there, he's probably going to be okay at it because he literally had no emotional like range at all in this movie, and maybe that's by design. I don't know, but like he was stiff as a board the whole fucking movie.
Yeah, yeah.
Real
I,
stone
I
faced
think that
dude.
was the character, but yeah, I get what you're saying.
Like he just didn't have range to him whatsoever. Like, and
Yeah.
he wasn't asked to have like a ton of like he didn't have a ton of dialogue or anything like that. He was kind of just an asshole. Um, but they did mention this. It's kind of cool in the Q&A that he found out that he got the Superman role while on set with all of them, so they have it on camera, like
Mm,
of him finding out he got the role and them like all like freaking out, like celebrating with him.
that's
So
sick.
they said they're going to release that, but they'll probably hold it until it gets closer to when Superman is coming out to like help him promote it.
Hmm.
But they did talk about that, which is definitely cool. I'm sure that was a great moment. Like, hey, like I'm a supporting actor on this movie, and like Glenn Powell is like obviously the guy right now that's like kind of taking off in like the Hollywood's like front, and it's like I'm getting my big shot in like a major role, like I'm gonna be fucking Superman. Like that's pretty
Yeah.
badass. But yeah, I don't know if I loved like that whole arc, but I think it made sense for Javi to have like this like thing that he had to like deal with, and I think it gave his character. While I didn't love the story, I thought it gave his character a depth that was necessary, and I thought it like giving that payoff of the moment where he's driving down the road and he has to make the decision like they're like I should be doing this to help people, not doing this to be selfish and personal gain, and leaving that guy to die probably because he just like the whole
Yeah.
premise is they have to drop those things and like in the eye of the storm, right? Like the one that he drives around with the lion is like the one he has to drop in the eye of the storm, and he's just like, yeah, get out here, and then he just leaves him there. Yeah,
Yeah.
you murdered somebody, my friend. um do you think we're gonna get a sequel?
uh, I mean, obviously, this is like we're talking about this basically on release day for it, so it's tough to say like what it's gonna do box office wise, but I think it deserves it.
I think you're right. Like if it doesn't make money, like we're not gonna get a sequel. If
Yeah.
it does well from a performance standpoint, I think that you have two actors that they would like to have return.
Yeah.
Um, and I think there's a world where you could make this bigger. You know, I think what I wanted to see from it being bigger in this, I think you're right in the sense that this is more of a remake slash reboot than it is a sequel.
Yeah.
And so like it doesn't have the scale of feeling like it needed to be like larger than life because it's trying to start something. And if it makes money, I think you see them grow like the scale of things if they're able to make a second. And I think they set it up where you have now like, you know, obviously you could do a couple of different things like that movies like this do, where it's like you could have Kate and Tyler still be a thing, or you could have it be that they're separated and like they end up, you know, like having to work together again or like whatever you do, you know,
Yeah. Yeah.
that like you've seen in movies like this in the past. So I'd like to see a sequel. I'm glad that they didn't get ahead of themselves and do like a post credit where they set something up. They kind of left it where it is with like a happy ending and being like problem solved. The two characters found happiness with each other, and like this is where we're gonna end this. So like if we never make another one, you have a complete movie. Like you're not
Yeah.
left with some open-ended thing at the end that you're gonna want to see more. But I think that there's definitely things that they could do to continue on if they make enough money. Let's rank it.
Yeah. Yeah. So I know I gave it 4 stars. I just gotta remember where I put it.
I gave it 3.5.
Hmm.
So I'm at 3.5 stars, and I have it in 14th.
I clearly like this more than you. I have it at 4 stars at 6th.
I looked at it and I was just like, there's one movie that just keeps sticking out at me that I think I need to drop, and it's Ungentlemanly Warfare.
Yeah.
Because like I don't know if I think I like this more, but I was torn, to be honest, because like I was trying to not be a prisoner of really liking the two leads and overrating it because of like my like for them and just trying to judge it corely on the movie. And I felt like 14, like right at 3.5 stars, where it's one of my top 3.5 stars. But like 4-star movies I've kind of reserved for like, I don't know,
No.
like like Furiosa. Like there's definitely a handful of these that I could have it in front of. Do you have it in front of Fall Guy now?
It's directly behind Fall Guy.
Okay, so I have this a bit behind Fall Guy, but I also have it behind Beekeeper. So like we've said this a million times. We did this last year. These things can change, and like when I revisit it at some point, it might move. But I felt like for right now, I dropped it at 3.5 stars. And I might give that more context later on.
It's at the bottom of my 4-star movies.
Yeah.
But it is up there. Obviously, I don't have a ton of 4-star movies, but I think it deserved it.
Fair enough. I'm not griping with it.
For those with good taste.